design in your self-discovery journey to help know yourself better so that you can design a life that is more fulfilling and authentic to you. Hi, it's Jenny and welcome back. Today I have some shoots that I need to do for a freelance video series that I'm making for a client. And guys, it's the end of August and it is hot outside today. It's like, I'm just so tired of summer. I'm so ready for fall. I want nothing more than to go outside and film these shots because the client is someone who has a gardening product, and I love to garden. I love plants, obviously. And as like a, middle-aged spokesperson mom lady, I am an ideal client for them as their spokesperson. So I'm about to film some gardening videos, basically. So I have to be outside, and there's a lot of prep work that you got to do to get the shots set up, to get the products set up, because I had to go buy some new plants and some soil in order to make this video, because I couldn't do it with the stuff that I already had, kind of, without like transplanting a bunch of things I didn't want to transplant. Long story short, I really need to go film these shots of this gardening stuff, but I'm too darn hot. It's too darn hot. It's too darn hot out there, and this is the only time in the afternoon today that I have to do it, but it's 4 o'clock, which is like the hottest time of the day, always. Don't ever plan to do anything outside at 4 o'clock during the summer. Just don't. Like, whoever did this earlier in my brain, Jenny, bad idea. I was busier earlier in the day, so I was kind of time limited. But anyway, I'm distracting myself from being outside working in the hot, hot heat by sitting down to record something that I had planned for today. Now, I have really been enjoying doing some vlogging and talking about life updates and things that I'm updating in my little cottage house here, and the stuff that I've been going through this summer as I have been trying to figure out what is going on with me. I did just get diagnosed with ADHD in my 40s, and it was right around my birthday, actually. And so like that has been a whole thing, and I've been really like finding it fruitful to sit down and talk about that journey. But I also know that a lot of people watching the channel are really interested in the other areas of life that I talk about sometimes, which are things like personal development, self-discovery, and lately human design, which is a very exciting thing that more and more people are getting into, which makes me so happy as a big human design fan myself. And so I wanted to talk a little bit today about self-discovery and human design and how you can use tools like human design in your self-discovery journey to help know yourself better so that you can design a life that is more fulfilling and authentic to you. So when you start on a self-discovery journey, I have a podcast, by the way, that I have just sort of rebranded. I trashed the old one and started over again because it just wasn't feeling right. And this new idea popped into my head one day, and it was just one of those moments of inspiration where I was like, oh yeah, of course I should have a podcast just about self-discovery, where I really dive deep into the self-discovery process, what my journey has been like, and give advice and anecdotes to help people who are also on a self-discovery journey, or maybe just starting to look into things that they could do to change their life and transform and grow and create a better existence for themselves. And so the 4th episode of the podcast just came out. You can see on my YouTube channel that all of the episodes will also be uploaded on YouTube. And yeah, you should subscribe to my podcast if you have been listening and enjoying it. It is called the Cozy Self-Discovery Podcast. And yeah, I'm very excited. I hope to post a podcast every week. So back to, sorry, that was just a little interlude. And, now that I understand that my brain is much more sporadic and random, the little interludes make so much more sense. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about the tools of self-discovery, and a big one that I have discovered along the way and felt really drawn to and have gotten really excited about in the last couple of years is human design. So let's talk about that a little bit. So self-discovery is not a program, it's not a 10-step thing that you need to follow and check off as you go along the way on your journey of figuring out who you are deep down inside. It's a create your own adventure story, which is what my latest episode of the podcast is about. And you get to dive in and swim around a little bit and take a look at all of the different things that people use as tools of self-discovery while they are in this process. And you can start off real simple and easy by doing things like starting a journaling practice, starting to meditate, starting things like shadow work, introducing small practices into your normal life that give you the opportunity to prompt you to do a little bit more of this deeper work on yourself. I talk about how when I was first starting out, I started doing rituals with the moon, where I would look at the moon cycle, and on the new moons I would do one sort of shadow work journaling exercise, and then on the full moon I would do another different type of shadow work journaling exercise that really played into the energies that were going on with the new and the full moons to really help me work on things like getting very clear on the things that I want to manifest in my life, and then getting very clear on the things that aren't working for me, that I need to let go of in life, the things that I have grown out of that need to be left behind, and the things that I need to change in order to slowly and surely point myself in a better direction. And there are a lot of different ways that you can sort of create these practices and rituals for yourself. You don't have to do shadow work, quote unquote, if that's something that you're not comfortable with or you don't know enough about it to say, oh, I'm absolutely going to do that as part of my practice. You can do research to figure out what these things are and to see if you think that they would resonate with you or not. And obviously, I'm also going to mention that when you are in charge of your own self-discovery journey, you can obviously research and find out the things that you want to incorporate into your practice and your life on your own, but then there are also people who could help you as a part of your journey to do some of this work alongside you or to help prompt you or guide you through it. So you could also seek out therapy or counseling. You could search out a life coach or a transformation coach. I don't know if self-discovery coaches, if that's if I ever went into coaching, I think that I would probably call myself a self-discovery coach, which is something that I've considered, but I don't know if I can call that a thing. People who are getting into coaching these days can call themselves really whatever they want to call themselves, because that's kind of just what the market is right now. But there are a lot of people who are working on this type of thing with people. So whether it's stepping into your feminine energy, whether it's authenticity, whether it's, entrepreneurship or becoming a light worker of some sort, there are all sorts of people out there who are now devoting their lives to helping and guiding other people through that process. So you can, of course, do work on your own in the ways that feel good to you, but you can also seek out other people to work with as a part of this as well. One of the things that I did early on when I was really starting to figure out what are the tools and the different things I could do to help me get to know myself better and find out more about myself, that, because you just never, you go through life and you don't actually look that deep into who you are, right? A lot of the times we get so busy and distracted, and we have this life path set out for us when we're younger, and we're going to follow in our parents' footsteps, or we're going to do the career that the guidance counselor in 10th grade told you should do based on the score on some random test that they gave you for aptitude or whatever. And we just sort of get onto the path and that track, and we put our heads down and do it so that we can graduate from that and get a job and have the life, just a normal, life. But a lot of the times we don't really stop along the way to get really deep with ourselves to find out who we are on the inside. If we were allowed to do whatever we wanted with our lives, to live in whatever way actually felt the best to us, if we were to make the decisions that actually felt most aligned instead of the decisions that other people want you to make, what would that look like? And I think when you start to actually look into those things, no matter how old you are, you start to see that it's probably a bit different from the life that you're actually leading, which was influenced by so many other things before you got to where you were, right? So that's the important thing about self-discovery is it's never too late to start the process, and the journey can be whatever you want it to look like. You could be searching for major transformation in your life. Maybe you know deep inside that something has gone horribly wrong and you need to start over, and you need to quit your job and move to the other side of the world and do something completely different, because where you are right now is just untenable, and it's not something that you can do anymore because you can feel how wrong it is for you. Maybe that's where you are. Or maybe you're someone who's pretty happy with their life, but they could be happier. You just feel like you're not quite living up to your potential. There's other stuff that you wish you could explore, but you don't really know how. Or maybe like your home life is great, but your career is unsatisfying. You could just be doing the work to try and figure out these little things about yourself, these little tweaks to help guide you to make certain changes and see even the slightest bit of difference in your life that helps you realign it to something that is more authentic and pleasing to you. So along the way, speaking of working with people, I was like, I know personally that I've always just had this interest in the esoteric and the spiritual world and the type of practices that people are doing there. And so I've always been interested in things like tarot and astrology, even though my brain is not the type of brain that can just catalog all of that type of information. Like I've tried to learn a lot about this type of stuff, and it's fascinating to me, but I cannot memorize all the things, guys. It's impossible. It's so complicated. It's really hard for me. So in that case, I knew that doing my own work to look into, I just want to know my astrological chart in more detail, so that there's certain things about myself that I could get insight on through that process, right? But I know that I don't understand it well enough. So I sought out an astrologer to get an in-depth reading on my chart. When I discovered human design, it immediately clicked with me, and I was like, oh, this makes sense, and oh, this sounds awesome, and I want to know so much more. So I was watching a lot of human design content online, and I found a human design expert who offered readings that I went to, so I started with a human design reading of my chart so that I could find out a little bit more detail about that. And from there, I started watching a lot of content, similar content, diving a little bit deeper into the things I was starting to understand better. I got the big book of human design that Ra Uru Hu wrote, the textbook basically for human design. And I started reading that, and I started learning a lot more, especially about sort of the things that affected me the most because they were in my chart, obviously. And so I found out that I was a self-projected projector, and that is my energy type and my strategy. And once I started learning more about it, as a projector, you wake up really quickly to the fact that there's only about 20% of the world is made up of projectors. The majority of other people in the world are generators. And it's a very different type of person from you. Your energy works very differently. Your aura is very different. Your purpose is different. And you realize one of the big major ahas that anyone who is diving into human design will be that you have probably been using your strategy wrong your entire life for how to succeed and find success and progress and forward movement. And so finding out for myself that I am not a machine and I can't work all day, and I should never be pushing myself and forcing myself onto people to try and convince them to work with me or to see me and validate my strengths and talents and the things that I do. I shouldn't be trying to force other people to recognize me and putting myself out there in situation after situation where I am asking people to work with me, because that is not my strategy as a projector. That's not my energy. That is not how I'm going to find success. And so I had to think really quickly about what are the things that I've been doing my whole life that are not in alignment with this strategy. And how has that worked out for me? Has it worked out well or has it not worked out well? And I reflected back on a lot of the times in life when I tried to barrel my way through the goal that I was trying to reach and get the prize and get myself to the end point by forcing myself to do the thing that I am trying to get to, and then trying to make people recognize me, and applying for all the jobs, and trying to put myself in that position where I will be given the opportunity that I want through my own sheer force of will. That has really never worked out for me very well. I find that once I'm in a space, I can thrive within the space when I am just doing my thing. When I was an archaeologist in my old career, I studied anthropology in grad school. I did great in grad school because I was very hyper-focused on archaeology and anthropology as an academic field and as an ADHDer. When my hyper-focus is lit up, I can focus real good. I can work really hard. I have a lot of motivation and energy to do that. And so when I was just doing my thing, studying and reading and talking, and there was no end goal to that, like that's all I needed to do in order to do well in grad school, I was top of my game. I have a 4.0 in my graduate degree because I was just like, this is it. Like I was in the flow, right? But once I got out of grad school and I had to actually start working and making myself this career, I was like, okay, well, what do I need to do to be a working archaeologist? It's not an easy field to get jobs in, right? I decided to make myself a whole brand online. So I created this persona for myself as a public archaeologist and a brand. I created a Twitter account and a podcast and a blog all about archaeology. And I was this person. And I was pushing it out to everywhere I could try and find. I was sending it to potential employers with my application, saying, you know, look at me, look at me, look at me. And I was sort of floundering in terms of knowing how to get recognized and get offered jobs. And as a projector, that's the whole thing. That's how you get the opportunities and the clients and the jobs or whatever it is. People have to recognize you, see you, appreciate you, recognize you, and then invite you. And I just didn't understand that all I needed to do was put myself out there and give them the opportunity to see me. I didn't have to push myself and work from sunup to sundown every day. I didn't have to overextend myself and try to plow my way through the field of other archaeologists looking for the same jobs. What works best for me as a projector is to put myself on display, kind of, in positions where I can just do my thing. If I am allowed to just do my thing and be in my genius and my flow by talking and writing and doing creative projects and things that light me up inside, other people will see it and be excited by it. That alone will create the opportunity for people to see and recognize me and then invite me to be a part of whatever they're doing. I really enjoyed making my archaeology podcast, and that really was just me doing my thing, right? I would get on a mic and I would just go and I'd talk about all this cool archaeology stuff that was going on. And my podcast, this was back in 2013, guys. There were not many people podcasting yet. And so the reason I started this was because I was finishing up grad school and I was just starting to listen to podcasts, and I was like, whoa, this is awesome. And I looked around and I was like, there's like 4 archaeology podcasts on the internet at all. There were no people. There was like literally less than a handful of people making archaeology content in the podcast world. And I was like, I listened to them all. They were pretty dry, not very funny, not very entertaining. They were just informational. And I was like, I could do better than that. I'm a performer, don't forget. I have a background in theater. I'm very comfortable on camera or speaking. I'm charismatic. I know that these are strengths that I have. I am a Leo sun, Leo Mercury, Leo midheaven, Leo North Node. Guys, I'm in the 10th house. If you know astrology, then you know. So this is part of what I am here to do and what I'm supposed to be and who I am, right? So I just sort of got on that podcast and did my thing and had fun, and I was in the flow and I was loving it. And I got an invitation a little bit after I launched it from a guy online. He was one of the other podcast hosts for one of the other handful of archaeology podcasts on the internet. And in my podcast, I set out to entertain people and have fun and make jokes and talk about archaeology and history, but make it funny and entertaining by being myself. You can look up my podcast, by the way. It's still on the internet. It's called The Struggling Archaeologist's Guide to Getting Dirty. And I'm very proud of that title. So I got an invitation from this guy, and he was like, I've listened to your podcast. I love it. I think it's great. And I recognize that you are you have a lot of potential, and you're like a really great voice in this space, and I want to work with you. So he invited me to be a part of an archaeology podcast network that he was starting. So this archaeology podcast network is still alive today. I was one of the initial podcasts that was part of the network when it was started. I was a part of the network for a couple of years, and he collected a group of podcasts, and we all supported each other. And my podcast was published along with theirs as part of the archaeology network. And so I was a member of this community. I got to guest host other podcasts. I was on the Women in Archaeology podcast for a little while. And it just opened up a lot of opportunities for me. And I got to actually be involved in this world and do my thing and shine in this medium that I really felt connected to, like I was called to do. As a self-projected projector, talking is pretty important for me. And so that's a great example of how not pushing too hard and just allowing other people to have the opportunity to see me in my flow, doing my thing in my zone of genius, allowed for those invitations to come in, and how well that worked out for me in the past. It was a great period of my life, and that just worked out so well. And I obviously moved on from the archaeology world a bit later and sort of pivoted into a different career path for myself. But I had more success in that realm as the brand creator and podcaster and blogger than I ever had as an actual archaeologist working in the field. Yes, I did work. I got jobs, but I wasn't up for any of the big jobs that I actually wanted. I wasn't in the rooms. I couldn't force myself into the pool of potential hirees for a lot of places and positions that I would have loved to be considered for, because I wasn't doing that. I wasn't showing them my zone of genius, and I wasn't showing them what I could do in a way that really reached into people and penetrated, as a projector is supposed to do, and got them to pay attention to me. I wasn't shining like that in the job application realm or the networking realm when it came to actually getting, consistent good work as an archaeologist. But these days, now that I understand myself a lot more as a projector, I'm trying to design my life and the things that I'm pursuing. I'm trying to design them around that model, really. So what is YouTube for me? YouTube is obviously a way for me to connect with people and community, and to be creative and make content that I feel really proud of and that I love to make. I love vlogging and filming and putting together videos, and I love talking about things that I'm passionate about. And YouTube gives me the opportunity to do exactly that. And so that's the whole point. That's the game. That's the thing, is to show myself in all of the arenas where I want to be working. Showing myself shine, putting it out there, not to be pushy, not shoving it in people's faces, but creating the opportunity for others to see and be penetrated by me. That sounds awful. I gotta find a different way to say that. That's bad. But anyway, so coming back to self-discovery real quick, understanding myself better from a human design lens, and that's just one example. I could go into many different examples. The more and more and more you learn about your human design, it can get so granular that I can see things on a very specific individual level of different traits or things that I do that I have been able to tweak and sort of see in a new light that has allowed me to do things in a different way that is more successful for me than the way that I was doing things before, when I had no idea of what human design was. And so as part of self-discovery and your journey of that, it's obviously it can be daunting, because if you know nothing about human design, you're looking at this huge crazy system, right? And it looks nuts. And you're like, there's no way that I'm ever going to understand this well enough. Even just starting really, really simply with those two things, your type and your strategy, can be so life-changing once you start to understand yourself better energetically, and from that perspective of what type of person you are meant to be in the world and how you are supposed to operate in the world. And of course, like I could go into a billion examples from astrology. I could go so granular in human design at this point. That's the great thing about self-discovery being your journey, is that you can decide how far you want to go into any of this stuff, whether you want to go into it all or whether you want to find other ways to do what you want to do and make these discoveries about yourself. But human design has been a very influential one for me because I feel like it is probably one of the most practical ways to learn better strategies for you to be more successful in your life. I like things that are a bit more grounded, and astrology is wonderful. I've learned a lot about myself with astrology too, but I really like the groundedness of human design because it really comes down to how you act and behave in the world. And so you can learn things and give yourself a real advantage in life by making those simple shifts, even just to try it out, you know? Like, say you find out you're a projector, you've kind of been living your whole life like a generator. Try and just make a simple shift for 2 weeks in how you put yourself out there. Try not pushing so hard and sitting back and allowing people to recognize and appreciate you and then come to you with their invitations. I get a lot of invitations from clients now that I have learned how to leverage myself as a creator and a freelancer and a voiceover artist and a YouTuber, all the different things that I do, by creating the platforms for myself to make myself visible. And as long as I can do that, because I'm visible, allow people to see me in my zone of genius, doing what I love to do when I'm in the flow, that's really my only job. That's my job. Because after that, I sit back and I wait for people to reach out to me, to contact me with their interest and a lot of the times their offers and their invitations. And this last year and a half that I've been freelancing, I've made a really decent amount of extra income in my life from that. And I don't push myself out to clients. Cold marketing and that direct marketing strategy is something that I would like to look more into in the voiceover world especially. That is the way a lot of people get jobs. But I'm a little reticent to, because I feel like that might be a little bit too much against my strategy as a projector. So, you know, these are the type of things that now I can take into account as I'm making these types of decisions and thinking about my strategies for how to create my business and run my business, you know. I just wanted to say that these are things that everyone can do, and there are so many resources online to help you. mybodygraph.com is where I would go to start your human design. You just need to know your birth information, and just like astrology, you put it into the website and it will tell you your chart, and it has a lot of great information, and it will break it down for you into a bunch of different areas. But if you are just starting out, I would start by looking at your type and your strategy, and then go from there. So yeah, that's pretty much it. The sun has lowered a little bit in the sky. I always look at my watch, even though I don't wear a watch, but I look at my hand when I am trying to think about what time it is, because I'm a weirdo. All right, well, I am so glad that I got to sit down, take a break from the heat and the sun, and film this little video about some of the options that you have when you're looking at starting a self-discovery journey, or say you are just dabbling in it and you don't really know what to do in order to continue working on yourself. You have so many different options of things that you can turn to, tools that you can use, different avenues that you can explore to help learn more about yourself and tweak your life journey into the absolute perfect path for you. If you want to know a little bit more in general about how to create your own self-discovery journey, then you can tune into episode 4 of the Cozy Self-Discovery podcast. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will be back with another video very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.